Ghana, a stable democracy, the world's second largest cocoa producer and Africa's second largest producer of gold. The West African nation discovered major petroleum deposits offshore. Unsurprisingly, the oil companies are coming face to face with fishermen whose livelihood depends on the high seas.
So, the oil and gas industry is really quite new to Ghana. We're 10 years old. Fishermen have been on our coast for centuries. And you can appreciate why they would think that this is their area and this is their livelihood. But we are operating in the same space. We're going to be there for a long time. We have these very big vessels, machinery, equipment. They're stuck to the ocean floor. And they will by all means conflict with some of the fishermen who feel that they have free ingress and egress into those areas. But we also think there should be areas of cooperation as well.
When there's a seismic survey, it means they ask the fishermen not to go fishing this way and you see, they don't even come back and say, oh, we are doing seismic survey. You could have made something out of the fishing today. So let us come and give you some enumeration that, oh, take this one, don't go for fishing for the next 2 months, so I will be able to do assessment. When we finish, you can come and do your business. Nothing is done. One day we will be there and they will tell us, don't go to fish, that we are exploring oil, so don't eat.
To ensure that fishermen keep away from the oil operations, an advisory zone has been introduced. The advisory zone is an area of 5 nautical miles from the FPSO, which serves as a safety buffer. Fishermen are advised to leave this zone when they enter it with their canoes. There is also an exclusive zone of 500 meters from the FPSO, which is a no-go area for fishermen. The oil companies enforce adherence to these regulations, but this situation does not sit well with the fishermen.
They were fishing there before the oil. So when I'm staying in the house, you don't come and throw me off.
And so the fishermen disregarded instructions to stay away from the exclusive zone, and all hell broke loose.
It's like a spaceship has landed on your sea. They came right up to all our installations.
In 2016 alone, on the Jubilee field, we had over 1,500 incursions.
I've seen fishing canoes come that close to the FPSO Kwame Nkrumah, going right through the turrets, the chains that keep the turrets, going right through there. And I think that's very dangerous. I've seen canoes that have tied themselves up to the pontoon of an oil rig.
While oil companies are happy to share the sea with the fishing community, they are concerned about the safety of their operations.
Safety for us is everything. It's everything. That's the bottom line.
There's a lot of, investment in infrastructure that are beneath what you would see if you were out there as a fisherman.
We're operating up to pressures in the region of 400 bar. That's 400 times atmospheric pressure. So you can see that if there's anything that impacts on those pipes, then that could cause a significant release and a major incident. It's a massive area that is covered by the security zone. So we need to make sure that the fishing vessels stay well clear of all of the area so that they're not impacting even on the vessels that seem like quite a long way away.
Piracy is another safety issue to consider.
Sometimes you don't know who is coming. They will just pose as if they are fishermen, but you just don't know.
And then there is the case of fishermen who enter the exclusion zone without even realizing it.
There's the presence of the Guinea current, which is quite strong at some time in the year. It flows from the west to the eastern side. You're talking about canoe fishermen. They don't have the instruments and they don't have the charts to know that, oh, I'm not supposed to cross such a specific line. So for some of them, sitting innocently and fishing outside the zone, if they happen to be on the western side, if the strength of the current is about 2.5 knots, it means that in 1 hour, he will be 2 miles or so inside the zone without knowing.
Incidents out here can be extremely expensive.
When we have a shutdown and we are not operating because there's been an incident, it's loss of production. and it's loss of revenue to the government of Ghana, and loss of revenue to our company as well.
And there are several examples of this.
We had a net which was probably about 500 meters long, massive net, and that stretched all the way from the port side of the vessel, all the way around the turret, and it was dragging all the way down the starboard side of the vessel. At the time, we had the CSV was close to the operation, and it was impacted in terms of getting some net caught in one of its thrusters. That operation to free the net from the thrusters meant that the CSV could not come in for almost a week, and it required a significant effort in terms of a diving operation to actually go underneath the vessel and to free the net. So significant cost to do that, but also significant risk to the individuals involved in the job.
Keeping fishermen away is a difficult task because large numbers of fish congregate around the FPSO.
If you go to the FPSO, where you see the oil is the same place you see fish.
The problem, fish aggregate where there's light. So there's light on the FPSO, they'll go there. Fish will aggregate where there's food. There's food around the area of the FPSO.
But they don't stay here, says Dr. Kwame Boacheje.
What I can also tell you is that they don't just come in to stay. They pass through. They come, they go. They come, they go.
Truth be told, the canoe fishermen activity itself attracts large numbers of fish.
Assuming you have about 2,000, 3,000, 5,000 of these boats at one night coming with this light, put it together, each of them will also be attracting fish.
While fishermen blame the oil companies for attracting the fish they want, there is a bigger problem at play, which is putting enormous pressure on the fishing industry.
We have seen a decline in fish stocks, not because of oil and gas, but simply because of overfishing and bad fishing practices.
Fishermen themselves, by some of their illegal activity that has to do with light, monofilament net and all that, I think is also contributing to the dwindling of the fish stock.
There's the use of dynamite, which is illegal, but it does happen. And dynamite and hydrocarbons are not a very good mix.
Look at it this way, like a can of milk. You open two sides and then you blow air, let's say on the other side to get the milk from the other side. That's basically what is happening there. Except that this is on a very large scale. So the pressures that you are talking about, and then somebody goes to light dynamite there, it's unheard of.
Fishermen counter by pointing to problems within the industry, like inadequate regulation, competing agencies, and resources.
Who was at fault? Who should compensate who? All these things are lapses that are happening between the oil companies and then the fishermen.
Who is doing that coordination? Is it the oil industry is taking the lead to coordinate how they ensure that the oil find benefits the fishermen and the other people or other stakeholders? Is it Petroleum Commission? Is it the Fisheries Commission? Is it the Energy Ministry?
There are several agencies that claim rights in terms of enforcement, but the resources required for them have not been identified. The understanding of where one agency begins and the other ends, it's not very clear. I think we have it on paper, but in practice, the challenge is we now have oil and gas. How are we going to manage the relationship between competing interests?
We have enough legislation in place to control fishing. Maybe what you should say is that the enforcement has always been the challenge, both from our side, admittedly, and from the side of fisheries.
Can you think of a scenario where we have about 10 FPSOs and let's say 10 rigs offshore? I can bet you it's going to be a very tedious and difficult situation. Fishing industry contributes about 2% to GDP. Oil and gas also contributes thereabout, give and take maybe 10%. These are critical inputs to the economic growth of the country.
We have to settle down and cooperate with each other and see that sanity prevails.
Whilst our interest in oil and gas is evident, we also would like the fishing industry to thrive.
Tongue oil in partnership with the Ghana Canoe Council, has held numerous sensitization exercises with fishermen, and the number of incursions have reduced considerably.
They've been working very, very harmoniously with the fishermen. And they have educated a lot. They have helped us a lot. Yearly, we meet them, and then they help us to do sensitization programs through regattas. Yeah. So we thank them for that, but more must be done.
Stakeholders in the fishing and oil industries came together to find ways both industries could coexist peacefully on the sea, and the Safe Sea Access Framework was born.
The Sea Access Framework is first and foremost a discussion document that currently rests with the Petroleum Commission.
They brought the Safe Sea Access Framework to the Petroleum Commission for us to lead in an effort so that we can get all the partners to collaborate in the implementation of the recommendations in the framework so that we can tackle the problem collectively.
The Petroleum Commission has really embraced the Safe Sea Access Framework. They own it. It should be led by the regulator and supported by the independent oil companies.
It's not just going to be the industry, oil and gas industry that need. It's going to be, yes, industry. It needs to be fishermen, the fishermen and the associations. It needs to be government, regulators, enforcers, and they all have to come together to help make this happen.
It's like opening up the truth to everybody and then saying that, yes, we do have problems, and then we have suggestions to how we're going to solve the problems. So everybody bring on board your ideas. This is the way forward. And we need you all to come on board and understand.
So even though we are new in Ghana, I mean, there are many, many other places in the world that oil and gas has been for years. The North Sea in the UK, the Gulf of Mexico in the US, even just next door, Nigeria. And research and data shows us that there are ways we can coexist with the local communities. And I think the sooner we adopt some of those best practices,